more information has emerged about the April 8th total solar eclipse. As I covered in my previous video, the intersection point of the eclipse falls right at Little Egypt, southern Illinois. Just like ancient Egypt had a locust plague, now America will experience a locust plague whose epicenter is Little Egypt. This will occur sometime within the 40 days after the eclipse. Billions of cicadas are expected to surface this spring as two different broods, one that appears every 13 years and another every 17 years. They will emerge simultaneously. The double emergence of broods is rare, occurring only every 221 years. These two broods haven't been above ground at the same time since 1803. Based on the map, the epicenter of the horde is Little Egypt. Illinois will experience the highest number of cicadas. 17 states will be affected by the plague.
Cicadas are almost back.
When soil temperatures about 8 inches deep reach 64 degrees Fahrenheit, we're going to see the first emergence of periodic cicadas.
But this time, they're coming by the billions.
What's exciting this year is that there's two broods emerging. We have brood 19, which is a 13-year cicada, as well as brood 13, interestingly enough, which is a 17-year cicada. These 13 and 17-year cicadas only sync up about every 221 years.
The cicadas will be spotted in at least a dozen states, mainly in the Midwest and the Southeast. In Illinois, the two broods will overlap.
So as you drive from the south end of, Illinois all the way up to the north end, you're going to be in cicada land.
When they arrive this spring, you'll be able to tell. Cicadas are quite noisy.
Why is this a big deal? Because God once saved his people out of Egypt during Moses' time, and the Bible uses Egypt as an example, as in Isaiah 31:1. Woe to those who go down to Egypt for help, instead of relying on the Lord. Egypt just sold out the Palestinians of Gaza for $10 billion.
So you wanna go back to Egypt?
But we're talking about symbolic representations of Egypt. In the Bible, the book of Revelation says that Jerusalem is symbolically Sodom and Egypt. Some people think that America is also symbolically Egypt as well. Here you see a map of Egypt laid over the United States, and you can see we have one river that cuts through the continent the same way that the Nile River cuts through Egypt. And along the river path, we have towns that are placed in similar locations with identical names. One such example is Memphis. We have a Memphis, Tennessee, and there's a Memphis, Egypt. And wouldn't you know, Memphis, Tennessee also has a pyramid, along with a statue of Ramses. This pyramid lies right along the Mississippi River, just like the pyramids of Egypt lie right along the Nile. It's sort of like a parallel universe, but we're all still on the same planet.
Yeah, but let me tell you people, Little Egypt doesn't dance there anymore.
Enter the stars, and here we have it. Egypt is America. Now we're going to start with the obvious first. We're going to start with the slam dunks. And there's no room for stretching. It is what it is. This is the Nile Delta of Egypt and its ancient cities. Some of these names you'll recognize: Giza, Cairo, Alexandria. And as you look at this overlay, as I slowly bring it to life, you'll notice the Mississippi River becomes the Nile River. Now we're going to start, like I said, with the slam dunks. Cairo, Illinois; Memphis, Tennessee; Cairo, Egypt; Memphis, Egypt. There you see They are exactly where they should be on the map. And the other ones that I found was Tanis Crescent Street, right next to Tanis, Egypt. That was in Toronto. We also have Buteau Lake in Michigan, right where Buteau is in Egypt. We also have Alexandria, Minnesota, very close to Alexandria, where St. Mark, the apostle, brought Christianity to Egypt.
Now that was fascinating. But what's more important is that the United States possesses the moral character of Egypt.
We see the evolution of the history of this area in Little Egypt, in southern Illinois. Now, you can't make this up. This was part of the history of our country. And when I opened this video, I talked about God telling Pharaoh to let my people go. Well, southern Illinois was in the crosshairs of the entire slavery issue in the South. And there were debates between Lincoln and Douglas about slavery. And they talked about letting the people go. Yes, there is nothing new under the sun.
In Little Egypt, you will find Makanda, smack dab in the middle, and this is the precise crossing point right in the middle of the eclipse. According to Wikipedia, it is called the Star of Egypt. Wikipedia goes into detail as to why this area is called Little Egypt, and it will explain to you all of the different areas that are named after places in Egypt. It will also explain that this is the area of intense struggle when it came to the issue of slavery. Now listen to what this watchman has to say about this.
Who were the Knights of the Golden Circle? They were a secret society. Their objective was to annex a golden circle of territories in Mexico, Central America, Confederate States of America, and the Caribbean as slave states. So now you understand the history of Makanda. The center of these two eclipses crossing, the Star of Egypt. And now you understand why all of this racial hatred is now on center stage in America. And as God said, there is nothing new under the sun. Makanda, Cairo, Illinois, hiding in plain sight. And when you use your critical thinking, you begin to understand the truth about the world we live in. And here it is right now, southern Illinois, Egypt. And now, after I said all of that, you can understand why every fall vultures fly over Makanda and the surrounding areas and signal the beginning of fall and the arrival of the colors in southern Illinois.
I did a little digging, and the vulture problem is so bad there that they have a vulture fest every single year. Now, what does that remind you of? It reminds me of the wedding supper of the Lamb. You know, the vultures are invited. They're invited to feast on all the evil people. We aren't picking on Illinois. They are just an example of what's going on in the rest of our country that God is going to judge. Now, look what they did in the Illinois state capitol.
Welcome back to the Ingram Angle. Imagine walking into your state's capital during the week of Christmas and seeing this monstrosity. It's a so-called art display in Illinois depicting the satanic figure Baphomet as a baby. It sits right next to the Nativity. It's so obvious what the Satanic Temple, the group who put this thing on, is doing. They are mocking religious expression and the Nativity.
How cringe. Okay, now, this is some fascinating information about Makanda.
And you understand that the postmaster, which has your address or the headdress, which is what the Sphinx is called, which has the word address in it. And you know why the doors of the Israelites had to have their posts marked. They had to be postmarked so that the Lord would pass over their houses and their firstborn would not be killed. Now you understand why Laura is talking about the vultures. Laura, the postmaster, and saying it's kind of creepy to come out of the post office in the afternoon to a tree full of vultures. You see. Now you understand why in 1863 Minerva had a parcel of land surveyed and subdivided, which then became the town of Makanda. And you understand that Minerva is in fact the Greek Athena, who was based on the earlier Egyptian goddesses Isis and Neith. All of this is connected and it's real. And let this be a testament to the Holy Spirit. This is not something I discovered. This is something that God dropped in my lap. And now you see the truth. That what I've been saying all along, that America is Egypt. The World Trade Center laid out like the Belt of Orion, like the three pyramids, the Twin Towers forming two of the pyramids, and the new World Trade Freedom Tower forming the third pyramid. And now we see the truth that the Nile Delta, as you see here, superimposed on the Ohio and Mississippi rivers, shows us the Nile Delta. This is unbelievable because when you zoom in, Cairo is where it ought to be. Cairo, Illinois. Memphis, Tennessee is where it ought to be. And right above Cairo, you see Makanda, which is where the two eclipses will cross at the center of the Nile Delta. The Star of Egypt. You can't make this up. You can't stretch this. There you see the Ohio rivers and Mississippi River forming the boundaries of the Delta, almost perfectly superimposed. This is unbelievable. This is why they chose America for the new Egypt. We were ruled by pharaohs who worship the god of war, and they relish in making us all kill each other in war, tricking us into war.
I noticed that Minerva has an owl, but that's a whole other rabbit hole. There's dozens more videos on the internet that will explain that America is like Egypt. Some people even think that Egyptians used to live in America. I really don't know if that's the case, but I do know that America is Egypt symbolically and spiritually.
So you want to go back to Egypt? When the strong hand of the Lord leads you out of bondage.
Do not be discouraged. God does have a plan for his people. Just like he rescued them out of Egypt, He has a plan for us. The Bible says He separates the sheep from the goats, the wheat from the tares.
In the Bible it says in Matthew 13:37, "The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are angels." In Matthew 13:30 it says, "This is the way God is going to separate us," using the wheat and tares parable. "Let both grow together until the harvest, and at the time of harvest I will say to the reapers, First gather together the tares and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn. We will see the evil ones burn while we are being gathered into God's barn." And at midnight a cry was heard, "Behold, the bridegroom is coming, go out to meet him." Then all those virgins arose and trimmed their lamps. "But go rather to those who sell and buy for yourselves." And while they went to buy, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding, and the door was shut. From Matthew chapter 25. Come, my people, enter your chambers and shut your doors behind you. Hide yourself, as it were, for a little moment, until the indignation is overpast. Isaiah 26:20. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Luke 21:28.
According to Revelation chapter 19, Jesus comes back right after Mystery Babylon is destroyed. And all of heaven rejoices because Mystery Babylon is destroyed. So we'll find out really soon who Mystery Babylon actually